Hello and welcome to the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. We have a guest. We have two guests today, but one has been here before. We're talking to Sam Gaillard and his wife Robin, and we're talking about the wisdom walkers and what makes you think you can climb a mountain. So welcome back and welcome for the first time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll start off talking about who are the wisdom walkers, and we'll start with Sam.
Okay, so the Wisdom Walkers is a group of folks who are health enthusiasts, and they like adventure and challenge. And so the purpose of Wisdom Walkers is, as people get older, to focus on their health and to do those activities that keep them in good health and keep them active.
So Sam, I want to brag on you a little bit. Last time we were here, we talked about the fact that you were one of the first ones to reach the top of where I let you tell the story.
So we were on the Inca Trail, so we went to Peru to climb the Inca Trail to get to Machu Picchu as part of one of our adventures, and also to promote health. So the reason why we do the climbs is because we want folks to get into a routine so that they improve their health, so they improve their fitness to be able to do the climb. So we went to Peru and we climbed the Inca Trail, which was a 4-day trek. And the first day was kind of like a warm up. The second day we went to the peak, which was like 13,000 feet. And then the third day we went to an intermediate peak, and then the fourth day we went to Machu Picchu.
So the fact that you were so far ahead, it wasn't something you planned. It kind of just happened, and your background is as a runner.
Right.
So was that part of it?
Yeah, so part of it was that, so when you're doing a climb, one of the things that I found out was that what's the most important thing is your cardiovascular health. And so when you're at altitude, actually what happens is you actually increase your cardiovascular capacity because it stresses it. But that's one of the things that I found out. So as a runner for something like 20 years, which I started to improve my health, I had that base of cardio that allowed me to be able to basically treat it like it's a long run, right? So I was used to having an elevated heart rate for a period of time. Over a run, normally 4 to 5 miles is what I would run at that point. And so therefore, that elevated heart rate, because I was used to it, accustomed to it, then it would just kind of like kicked in, right? And so then part of the climb also, because of it was 70,000 stairs or something like that, right? And so the stairs, the way that we're arranged, and the climbing technique allowed me to get into a rhythm that was almost like, in a lot of ways in my head, it was like rhythm, like music, because it was like in triples. Everything was in the triples, right? You can take three steps, and then you take a rest. 3 steps and a rest. So it's like 4 beats, but it's like in triples. And once I got into that rhythm, I could just go at a faster pace.
Robin, you all just got back from a trip. Tell us about that.
Yes, thank you. So every year for my birthday in July, I plan an adventure. And so for this time, we went to Japan, and the focus of it was to climb Mount Fuji. And like the Inca Trail, Mount Fuji for many is a sacred mountain and a pilgrimage in and of itself, if you will. And this was my first climb. And the altitude was a concern for me because it was 12,388 feet, I believe. So I was a little bit put off by that. And also the incline or the pitch, because Mount Fuji is a volcano, so the sides are straight up. There's no zigging, zagging, just straight up. But, and unlike Sam though, I'm not a runner. And we would just walk. We would walk probably, 3 to 4 miles a day?
Something like that, yeah.
Yes, and we carried our own gear, our own pack, and so that was another element. So I was very excited by it. and looking forward to it, and a great sense of accomplishment once it was done.
How was it a spiritual experience for you as a birthday gift, as another year around the sun, celebrating that?
Just drawing breath, just being able to be there and present, having my health, and every step that I took, you had to be in the moment. What step are you on now? Where are you going to place your foot next? What's the consequence of a misstep? What happens when you lose your balance, as I frequently did? When you fall, what do you do when you get up? So to me, it sort of mimicked the journey of life, planning things, taking things as they come, accepting things as they come, and recovering, because, you know, as they say, it's not, you know, that you fall, it's what you do to get up, and it's what you do when you get up. So that was I guess, a parallel for life, if you will. But also reaching the summit was important. Doesn't matter how long it takes you to get there, just get there, and when you do, you're rewarded. And I think that we were rewarded. And we did it as a group. We were a small group, but we did it as a group.
Now, Sam, each mountain is different, because you talked about steps.
Correct.
With one journey. You talked about it being a straight
incline.
Yeah.
Almost.
How do you train if each mountain is different? Do you have to train differently each time?
I think it's really your basic cardio that you have, right? Your cardiovascular system, as it were. You know, where is that? Each climb demands a higher level of hiking, as it were, right? You're going to have an constant elevated heartbeat, right? Because you're going up an incline. The biggest thing I would say the difference is that when we were on the Inca Trail, you know, it was somewhat regulated because it was steps. Even though the steps were different size, it was somewhat regulated. The biggest difference with Mount Fuji is that it was volcanic rock, and it could move under your feet. So you really had to focus where you placed your foot. Couldn't really get into a rhythm. It was very choppy, right? But you had to really focus on where you placed your foot. And just in terms of training, the training is almost, as they say, on-the-job training. You learn it as you go along, right? And that's part of the adventure as well. It's the fact that you have to adjust, just like in life. You have to adjust in the moment to something that is different. And as a matter of fact, on the trail, there were areas that were, so it was ropes on the side to kind of guide you. But there was also areas on the trail where it really didn't look like a trail. It just looked like a series of rocks. And they literally drew arrows on the rocks to tell you which direction to go, right? And the rocks were different sizes. Some of them, you know, on one part of the trail, they're very small, right? But on other parts of the trail, they're fairly large. And like a person who has, I had an advantage because my legs are a little bit longer than Robin's, right? So I could step on some of the big rocks, but she couldn't. No. So she had to go around to the side where the smaller rocks were, right? So you have to, again, like life, you have to craft your own path based on what you have, right? You can't just climb, just following the guide. Because our guide, by the way, that we follow had particularly long legs.
He was quite tall.
So neither one of us could really follow him straight up, right? So we had to figure out your own path after watching him go through and where he stepped and all that kind of good stuff.
Now, how do you encourage older folks? And by the way, who was the oldest person in your group to reach the top? Is it someone in their 70s, 60s, 50s?
Yeah, so we belong to a group called the Wisdom Walkers.
Yes.
And they can be found at www.
Well, we'll give that information at the end of the program.
wisdomwalkers.org. And the executive director, I guess, of the board is Sharon Goods, and she is age 75. And so she was among the leaders, if you will, who summited. And I wanted to go back to Mount Fuji. We took one trail up, but we took another trail coming down. And so the trail that we took up was boulders, very large boulders, and it was steep drop-offs on either side. But the trail that we took coming down was small rocks, almost like walking on ball bearings, sand and ball bearings. And had I taken that trail going up, I would I would not have finished. It was longer, it was tougher in a lot of respects, but you know, it too is part of the mountain, you know, and we went through the craters as well, so that was tough. And we did have two groups. We had a guide with one group and a guide with another woman who had just begun, and she just started her health journey, and this was sort of the culmination for her hard work, because she had been working very hard, and she did it, and I was very proud of her.
And you all said something before we started taping about the fact that muscle doesn't age, so at any age.
Well, muscle doesn't have memory.
Yes.
It has age, but muscle doesn't have memory. So when you try to teach it things, it'll rise to the occasion. And if you don't teach it, it won't work for you.
So in other words, people of all ages
People of all ages.
can get fit and
As a matter of fact,
do what you did.
As a matter of fact, for Mount Fuji, we saw a number of folks who were very young and very old making the climb. So it's people of all ages who were on that climb, and in particular, I think Mount Fuji is like that.
Do you get together on a weekly basis with the Wisdom Walkers? Do you like meet on Saturdays, for example, and then during the week you have a training schedule?
Well, the Wisdom Walkers meets on Saturdays and Sundays in the morning, and they will walk throughout Rock Creek Park, and there are other areas as well. That's a little far for us, so we don't meet up with them on a regular basis. But then they have other hikes and walks that they do, like the Harriet Tubman Trail.
Yes, which is coming up.
That's
Yes.
correct. It's in October.
Yeah.
And so that's coming up. And then you have some folks that walk where they are. There are a few Wisdom Walkers in Long Beach, California. But people are encouraged to walk where they are and then post. But the group, the Wisdom Walkers, has a number of groups. They have the more seasoned walkers, people who walk every day, walk long, walk frequently. And then they have another status group, another fitness level group that is just starting out. So that way they can encourage everybody to be included and to walk at their own pace, but to improve and strengthen.
How are the Wisdom Walkers partnering with Sickle Cell?
So Sickle Forward is an organization that focuses on individuals that have sickle cell disease, and they focus on research and getting the information out there. So the Wisdom Walkers selects destinations, health destinations in our health and fitness regimen, and we will hold up a banner that says Sickle Forward, and we're raising money for Sickle Forward and their efforts. They also partner with Children's National Medical, and they are one of the leaders in sickle cell research. And so we aim to amplify what they're doing. We raise money on their behalf, and we really try to bring to the fore sickle cell disease and research and
Why
things
is
like
it
that.
important to focus on sickle cell? I remember years ago, you heard more about it than you do now. As a matter of fact, my brother got tested when we were kids
Right.
for it, and he didn't have it, but we learned a lot about the disease during that time. But you don't hear quite as much about it now unless a celebrity
Right.
has it.
Well, sickle cell disease affects many, many people worldwide. In fact, 300 to 400,000 children are born worldwide annually with sickle cell disease. And there's also sickle cell trait. I have in my immediate family 3 immediate family members that have full-blown sickle cell disease. I personally have sickle cell trait. And while there's literature out there that says, oh, there are no symptoms, you're not affected by it, But intense activity and altitude directly impact a person such as myself with sickle cell trait. So hydration is important, rest, and things of that sort. And there are other things you need to do. But many people don't know that they are carriers of sickle cell trait. Sickle cell disease impacts people mostly of African descent in the United States, on the continent, and throughout the diaspora, but also people of Mediterranean heritage, so on and so forth. So just imagine if you're a carrier of sickle cell trait and you have children with someone else who has sickle cell trait, and neither of you all know it, and you produce a child that has sickle cell disease. That is a chronic disease that needs to be measured and maintained, and so the awareness needs to be there. Continued testing, continued education, and research.
And that's a problem now with research being cut in
Research
so
being
many
cut.
areas.
That's correct. And there are a lot of things on people's radars. You know, we have other diseases that are out there as well, and we have everyday life. But if the Wisdom Walkers can use our platform to amplify very worthy causes like health, older Americans, and longevity, and also these diseases that continue to impact our community, again, both here in the United States and in the diaspora, then that's what we do. And so that's why we've chosen to partner with Sickle Forward and Children's National.
And the wonderful thing you said is just bringing the attention to health, period.
That's correct.
And training for something like mountain climbing is so good for diseases like diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease. I mean, you can't get a better treatment. It's like medicine, doing that regular exercise that leads to being able to do that. But whether you decide to climb or not, just the work that you put into getting there, the weekly walks or whatever you did to train for that, that's worth $1 million.
It is. And also being in a community that's like-minded. So
Yes.
the Wisdom Walkers is, you know, because of our age, that's true.
And let me tell you, you two don't look like wisdom walkers.
Well, we are.
You look a little young.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, you know, what you brought up, though, is exactly the reason why I started running. So I was like in my mid-40s, and I went to the doctor, and I had all these indications of things that will bring me to those metabolic diseases, right? You know, my blood pressure was sneaking up there. It's kind of high. My sugar count was getting kind of high, right? So it wasn't in the range where you would say I had those diseases, but it was at the part where you could see that if I continued to do the same thing, that I was going to need to be on medication. And at that point, when I walked out the doctor's office, I was like, I know how to deal with this. I just need to get myself back in shape and start watching my diet and be active.
How long did it take you?
You know, for a while, I didn't go back to the doctor, candidly, but I did go to health clinics, and it took about, I think for me to get into the range that was acceptable at that point, it took me about maybe 6 months or so.
That's excellent.
So, you know, I had a history of being a runner on and off. And so once I decided to be consistent, the biggest thing for me in terms of challenges in health was, you know, I didn't like to run in the cold at all, right? I just didn't like cold. I still don't. But I said, at that point, I was like, you know, I need to do this year round. And so then I started to brave the cold. And once I got into that cycle, then that's the thing that really kind of kicked it over, right? That then I was consistent, and then I could see the health benefits coming through.
How is it partnering as husband and wife doing this together?
Well, for me, I was just glad that I was able to do it. So I wasn't able to go to Machu Picchu last year with Sam. So I sent my aunt, and she is, right, she's, at the time, I think, Carol was, 71?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so she went in my place because our scuba diving club was having its 65th,
scuba dive?
right, 65th, 65th
Everything family.
anniversary in the Philippines. So I was like, well, that's, we can go back to Peru. But having my husband there with me this time was so fun. He was very patient. And I know that he slowed his pace down a lot. But one of the things to be careful of is altitude sickness. And
How do you deal with that?
So it affects different people in different ways. With me, I wasn't nauseous or vomiting or anything like that, but it affected my balance. I always fell back and to the right, especially when we were descending. So there was my husband to help and pick me up because I had my pack on. But also remember, I have sickle cell trait. So for us, altitude and strenuous exercise coupled with dehydration is a no-no. And sometimes you can take altitude sickness medication. Well, one of the medications is contraindicated, right, for people with sickle cell trait. So important to know. So I had to carry my own water. So you carry your water in your backpack. So that adds, about 3 pounds. I think 2 liters of water equals 3 pounds. So there was an extra 3 pounds to my pack. So there we were climbing and then also descending with that. So you can take altitude sickness medication or you can gut it out. It depends on how it affects you. And just be very careful and listen to your body.
Now, we've talked about the physical training. What do you eat? What do you eat during the training? What do you eat as you're climbing? What's the nutrition?
Well, I can say
Schedule.
that for me, you have, I would say our diet is relatively clean. And the fact that we focused on lean poultry, fish, lots of vegetables, lots of fruit, that kind of stuff. So that's our normal diet, right? When you're climbing, you're burning a lot. I will eat almost anything to get the calories. So as you probably notice, I'm kind of thin. Okay. So for me, I try to take in as many calories as I possibly can as I'm climbing, right? Because you're burning.
But what kind of things? What do you bring with you?
So, I have, you have the normal snacks that you would have, say for instance, if you're doing any type of endurance training, right? So you have those high calorie snacks, the power bars, that kind of stuff. But, the tendency is going to be to eat something that's going to give you a lot of calories. So it's going to be a lot of starches, rice, that kind of stuff. You're going to eat, if they have it available, you're going to eat the heavier, the fattier cuts of meat, right? So you have extra calories in order to burn and stay hydrated. And that's the number one thing. Yeah. So for Robin carried about 2 liters. I carried a little bit extra in case she needed extra water.
Yeah, and I think
that kind of stuff
I think I did run out of water.
But what did you eat, Robin?
So listen, I'm going to keep it real. I will eat Chick-fil-A. I do. That is my treat. I'll eat Chick-fil-A. But for the most part, we do eat clean. But when we were there in Japan, I'm a pretty picky eater, and there weren't many vegetables that weren't pickled. So, but we ate a lot of Wagyu beef. A lot of Wagyu beef.
I love Wagyu beef.
We ate quite a bit of it.
Had to get those calories.
But because there was food there that I didn't particularly care for, we did go to the market. So they had these giant Fuji apples. I mean, they were giant. So I carried 3 of those that added more weight to my pack. We also brought power bars and just a lot of water. Hydration is really
and
key.
Just plain water.
You could put the electrolyte powder in there if you wanted to. I did have a little bit of that, but for the most part, it was just plain water, and it's called a camel pack for a reason.
Yes.
So you know, you put in your pack and it has a tube and you just suck from it. So that was, I guess the pack must have been about 15 pounds extra at that time.
Probably. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
about 15 pounds, something like
Right.
that.
So, in wrapping up our program, what's next?
So
Are you going to do the underground?
The railroad.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
railroad,
under-
yeah.
we've done that already. So but we might go this year. It's unclear. But next year we're considering the El Camino,
Yeah, El Camino Walk.
the El Camino Walk, which is another sacred walk. It's a pilgrimage. It's one of 2 UNESCO heritage sites in the world that are a pilgrimage. The other one is the walk from Tokyo to Kyoto. And I think the Wisdom Walkers is going to partner again with Sickle Forward and climb Kilimanjaro again. But for us, just in terms of every day, week in, week out, we're going to continue with the walking as frequently as we can. Just, you don't have to run. You can walk your neighborhood. Start out with a half a mile, then increase a mile. We do probably about
That's what I
3
was going to ask.
miles.
What do you average
Yeah, about 3 miles.
Yeah.
a day?
And we'll just pick a time. In fact, last night we were walking with our headlamps, the whole 9 yards. And let me also say one thing, and I know that we're going to end, but for us as the Wisdom Walkers, what we did was we hiked in the early morning. So we hiked one part of the Mount Fuji, and they have different stations. That's what our sticks are for. You get the different blazes.
You can hold it up.
You get the different blazes for the different stations, and there are 10 stations, so at each station you get a blaze. But for us, we ended the evening at station maybe 8 or 9, and then we got up at 2:30 the next morning and hiked in the dark for 2 hours. Well, you had to go zigzag because you can't go straight up. And we did that so that we could summit at dawn, and that was incredible. And so there were, you know, a couple hundred of us at night, all with headlamps, and just on this path. And thankfully we didn't look down because it was a straight drop off, but we summited to the sun rising.
I want to thank you guys for coming this morning. You guys, a perfect example of what we should be doing at any age, making
Well,
sure you stay fit, hydrated, good nutrition.
That's right. Do what you can, how you can, but just do it.
Sam?
I would say the same. Start where you are, do what you can as often as you can, and stay on track.
We've been
You're
touching
welcome.
the Sisters for Fitness Wellness Show. I'm Stephanie Gaines-Bryant. Have a great day.